and welcome to the CX Live Dialogues. I'm delighted to have with us today Nives, Zver, Head of Strategy and Insights at Marble. With 11 plus years in global brand strategy, she has worked with leading names like MasterCard, NASA, and AWS, delivering campaigns that merge data, culture, and commercial impact. From community building to measurable growth, Nives focuses on turning insight into action and crafting experiences that connect with both customers and business objectives. Welcome, Nives. It's a pleasure to have you with us today.
Well, thank you for the invite. That was a lovely introduction. Lovely to be with you guys again.
Indeed. Now, in a very vibrant ecosystem right now, what's the one customer experience insight that's really shaped the way you approach brand or campaign work today?
Well, I would say the people remember how you make them feel, not what you said. And it sounds very simple, but it changes the way you approach campaigns and customers. And we spend so much time crafting the perfect message, but if it doesn't land emotionally, it gets lost. So I started treating every touch point like a stage. So whether that's a LinkedIn ad or an email or a social post, and really asked, how do we want them to feel in this particular moment? And one example at Amazon Web Services, we were working on a campaign targeting data builders and who are highly technical, but often invisible roles. And instead of defaulting to speed and more technical language, we tapped into pride and we framed them as these quiet architects of progress, the people powering the systems that the world relies on. And that emotional reframing sparked visibility engagement that we haven't seen before. So these days I try to focus on less on polished messaging and more on emotional clarity, making sure what we say actually connects, because when something resonates, as you know, people will always remember it.
Indeed, and again, given we've spoken about messaging, the other part is to make sure that it's connected with the right audience, and that's where data comes in. And you work with a lot of data. How do you turn all that complexity into something that actually resonates with real people?
Yeah, I'd say the real challenge isn't collecting the customer insight. It's turning it into something measurable, meaningful, and doing that fast enough to shape strategic decisions, especially when customer expectations shift very quickly. We can't rely on quarterly reports or lagging indicators. So we've adopted a much leaner approach. We focus on identifying the signals that matter most. So, for example, what's causing friction or what's driving delight, and mapping those directly to outcomes that we can actually measure, whether that's adoption or satisfaction rate. And of course, AI helps us scale in much smarter ways. For example, we take thousands of pieces of customer feedback in different forms and run them through different NLP models that score not just the topic, but also the emotional tone. And we then cluster those into different themes. So instead of manually tagging the data, we start to see clear patterns, what's rising or what's emotionally charged. And the goal is always the same. It's to keep the customer visible in the decisions we make and to measure whether what we're actually doing is moving the needle. Because if the insight can't connect those dots, it's not an insight. So this is really all about connecting what we know with what people actually feel and acting fast enough for it to matter.
Definitely. And in your opinion, what's the most overlooked moment in a customer journey? Now, how do you bring meaning to it?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. So I'd say the most overlooked moment for me is what happens immediately after someone takes action, whether they've signed up, subscribed, or made the first move. It's where expectations meet reality, and that gap can make or break the difference, and also can make the difference, but also break the experience. So it's easy to focus all of our energy on getting people in. But the next phase is where trust is either reinforced or it gets lost. So I focus on what they encounter in the first 24 to 72 hours. Is it clear? Is it helpful? Is there a momentum we can actually build on? And we break it down into small intentional steps that give us a sense of progress very early. For example, there might be a well-timed message or a small early win or just clear guidance at the right moment. And it's really about reducing uncertainty and giving people the sense that they're in good hands.
Definitely. Now, you've worked with some big communities. What role do you think community plays in building that long-term trust and brand growth?
Yeah, I mean, as we all know, people trust people more than they trust brands. And when it's done well, community is where customers stop being passive audiences and start becoming active collaborators. And that's where real sustainable growth happens. And trust doesn't come from a polished campaign. It comes from seeing people like you engage, share, ask questions, and really contribute. And it creates a space where that trust can build naturally. It becomes the most honest and often the most effective form of brand storytelling. So I always ask, what would this look like if it was powered by the people we serve? And always having that lens unlocks new formats, brings new voices and new ways of creating value. And it means stepping back from always being the one talking and instead creating the environments for others to speak, to connect, to co-create. And when you do that, you don't just build a following, you build a network of people who grow with you, shape you, and stick around long after the campaign ends.
Certainly. Thank you, Nives. It's been a pleasure to have you join us today. And we obviously look forward to meeting you at a customer experience live show shortly sometime. Until then, stay safe.
Likewise, thank you so much.